All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to our December Ask Mayfield Anything. As people are jumping on, take a moment here just to give everybody a little reminder. As we're going along, this is intended to be more interactive, and so love to get your questions, hear your thoughts, and anything that you have going on as we're talking through this. And the easiest way for us to manage all of that is through the Q&A section instead, not the chat, but the Q&A, so we can manage those a lot better. So as questions come up, please put those in that Q&A discussion or the Q&A section, and we can work on getting those questions answered. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started here. So thanks for joining. I appreciate you spending your lunch hour here on the West Coast with us. My name is Ryan Mayfield, founder and CEO of Mayfield Renewables, and been in the industry since 1999, and enjoying doing these AMAs with everybody. So with that, just introduce our two guests here today. So with us, we have Laurel Hamilton, and Laurel is our Director of Content Strategy and Production. And she started her career Southern California about 7 years ago, doing residential commercial installations, working basically on probably all sides of small commercial and residential installations, and has moved up and moved into working with us and doing our content strategy and production, working with our subject matter experts and manufacturers and other industry partners. And we also have Michael Palmquist with us. And so Michael is co-founder and CEO of SolarNexus. And Michael's we'll talk quite a bit about the SolarNexus platform. And Michael's really dedicated to reducing the cost of renewable energy systems, and he's gone storied career here, and we can let Michael talk a little bit about that as well. But Michael's been particularly interested in building software systems for green building and renewable energy systems. So it's great to have both of you on.
Thanks, Ryan. Happy to be here.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to kind of set the stage a little bit and then let Laurel and Michael talk about some of these things as well. But for our audience members, this kind of a graph is probably not anything groundbreaking or anything big news. But what we're looking at is specifically storage capacity throughout the past 6 years or so. And really the big point here is to show in our industry, in specifically storage industry, we're seeing a dramatic growth. And so this curve is really not, again, very groundbreaking. But one of the interesting things when we're looking at this is specifically, if you can see on there, the United States, the dark blue tab or dark blue part of that bar, you can see how from even 2018, 2019, 2020, that growth. And so we're experiencing this growth in the industry, and kind of leads us to the point here that we wanted to talk about today is a lot of with all of these changes, with this demand, we do see significant changes within the industry, and it's really hard to keep up, and it's really hard to maintain good practices when you have products that are entering the market. It seems like almost on a daily basis, and you have codes and standards. That's something that here at Mayfield we're really hyper focused on, codes and standards changing, trying to keep up with the industry. Just the way that the codes and standards are written, it's really hard for those to keep up. We're seeing industry changes happen a lot faster than what the codes can do. But nonetheless, it's an important thing to take in mind and keep in mind as you're going about this. And then just the sales and project process is quite quite a difficult task. And so that's one of the things Michael is going to talk about with his platform with SolarNexus, and how that can be helpful with that entire process. So all of that to say, we have some challenges within the industry, obviously, and really working to address those. So
yeah. So I would just add on to what Ryan said. My background was in installation world, so I've been a contractor in a couple of different markets, and have witnessed firsthand the challenges that come up when you're trying to juggle the whole process on both the sales side and on the project side. And as you're trying to scale, you are growing with more crews, more products, changing incentives, and trying to manage all of that, especially with energy storage demand, what it is today, is really complicated. And we're also trying to be competitive on the cost side. And really the way to do that is to make sure that your soft costs are kept down and you're operating as a well-oiled machine, right? So there's a couple of ways to do that. And we wanted to bring Michael here today to talk about the administrative management side of things and how important that is, and ways to really smooth out the process on both sides, as well as how technical expertise that Mayfield Renewables provides throughout that process can really help smooth things out as well. So between system design being accurate from the get-go and not having issues come up mid-project or even at the end of the project that something was designed incorrectly. And we also have technical consulting and education and training, which we'll touch on a bit later in the presentation. But yeah, really the point here is everyone is trying to meet demand. We're all trying to scale. We're talking to contractors daily about this, and with the storage additions to the mix being what they are, we have to do it smartly, right? We have to do it more wise with all of our systems. So happy to have Michael here.
Cool. Thanks for that, Laurel. So yeah, Michael, what I'd like to kind of turn it over here a little bit for you and let you do an introduction on SolarNexus and kind of how this works.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Ryan. Thanks, Laurel. So if you're not familiar with SolarNexus, we've been in business now for a little over 11 years. I'm a former solar contractor, and to put it plainly, it's the software I wish I had when I was a solar contractor. So it's about selling, installing, and servicing PV, storage, energy efficiency, any related services. And we'd manage that for residential and small commercial jobs. And I guess the big deal is, how do you manage lots and lots of jobs in parallel? So it enables scale. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on a couple of aspects that I feel are really, really important to ensuring profitability and enabling your team to scale well. And I would say that the biggest thing is having a well-defined scope of work. Solar contracting is really as much an information and communication business as it is a construction business. And having a well-defined scope of work does a number of different things. It gives you clarity, clear customer expectations, all these kinds of things. What you're looking at here, this check mark with a battery, that's actually a screenshot from one of our competing sales applications. It's a yes or no battery. So what battery, what capacity? Is there a backup configuration? Is it intended to offset utility costs? No idea, no idea. So you're just telling your customer, hey, you get a battery. Okay, well, not setting clear expectations up front with your customer opens a potential can of worms. And if you do happen to sell this, what did you sell? What are we doing? How do we fulfill on that kind of a project, right? So what you're seeing on the right, that's an example of SolarNexus defined energy storage system, which is just a piece of the scope of work. Now, it looks really complicated, but we put it together in a system that allows it to be very easy to use. Gives you clear customer expectations, lowering risks of customer unhappiness or cancellations. It enables good energy and economic modeling to occur, good pricing to happen, and it sets up your operations team for success. We go to the next slide. Okay, so here's a second issue that wanted to just talk about when you're dealing with solar and storage. It's a topic we hear about a lot. Availability of energy storage systems. Because of that rapid growth that we're seeing, sometimes you can't get the battery that you sold, for example. Now, keeping real good tabs and being closely in good communication with your suppliers to understand, what is the certainty of getting your batteries is a big deal. And what we're showing here is, well, we believe it's a really good idea to do a proposal of PV and energy storage because you can show the benefits and you can do economic modeling and all those kinds of things. But you need to ask yourself, can we be sure that we can get this particular battery in, when it's time to actually execute and fulfill on this project? And so in some cases, it makes a lot of sense to actually decouple a PV and energy storage project into two separate projects. In SolarNexus, we have one contract per project. So it's very easy. You can actually do a separation. You can do a proposal showing one, and then you can go forward by actually splitting that into a couple of separate projects, a couple of separate contracts, and then you're decoupling what's the lifeblood of solar contracting, which is your cash flows. So you don't want to tie cash flow payments, from doing a PV install with, oh, we don't have the battery yet, so we're not substantially complete, blah, 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 all those kinds of things, right? So it's a serious consideration. Both of them can work well, but you need to know your availability. Okay, so with that, why don't I, oh, yes, I forgot about this one. Okay, so as Ryan was mentioning, we've got lots of new products that are coming onto the market. Products are being retired. And as I was alluding to on the slide before, handling product unavailability. So you've got to take all of these things into consideration. There's a bunch of different points here for each of these different use cases. And you need to be able to have a system in place that allows you to intelligently and efficiently manage all of these different situations that you'll come upon.
So Mike, I was curious on, you were mentioning, new products, or, you sell a, ESS of brand X, can't get brand X, but I can get Y. How easy is that, I guess, or what's the process look like for SolarNexus to make that change on the fly, and be able to reevaluate that system at that point?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. That's something that I can show in the demo.
Okay.
The key thing here is that we provide administrative tools for defining systems, along with the technical requirements with those systems, and help for your staff to deliver good scopes of work and proposals to your end customers. And we give the tools. When that does happen, you need the tools to be able, from a project management standpoint, which is where you get the real pain, you need to be able to pivot. And those are all things that we can look at in a demo.
Okay, cool.
So should we go forward and do a little demo?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, let me go ahead and pull up my screen here. Okay, can you guys see my screen okay? You should be looking at the John Bradley project in SolarNexus.
Yep.
Okay, great. So what we're looking at here is a project that's already in process. It's on the sales side. You can see here it's active and in the sales side. I've already proposed a solution to the customer. You can see here it's proposed in my tasks here, and I want to sign a contract. But the customer has said, hey, you know what? I'm interested in adding a battery. What would that look like? So say no problem. I'm going to go ahead and create a second proposal for them. So I can go to my solution A. They're happy with the PV system that that I've proposed. So I can go and open up my solution here, and I can clone it. And so what I'm doing is I'm making an exact copy of it. And in my exact copy, I'm going to be able to then add storage to it. Now, the things that you'll see here about any of our solutions, we can see what is the scope. So scope is a really important aspect in SolarNexus because our process intelligence is always monitoring what is the scope of work for a job, and especially after it's sold, because it's dynamic and rule-based. So depending on the scope of work, the process definition is different based on what you've sold. So the steps that you take are going to vary. So I'm going to add a service, and you can see the different kinds of services that I have available to me. I can add a energy storage service, and I'm presented with a menu of the services, the offerings that my company provides. So in this case, the PV system, and I'm sorry, I didn't expose the PV system definition there, but it's a SolarEdge system. So I'm going to go with this SolarEdge energy storage system. And as the system populates the solution with this well-defined energy storage system, you'll see a few things here that I want to point out. It makes it easy. Okay, so here we go. Here's the energy storage system. It's much like what we saw on the slide. And we can see there's a name for the service, a description, main equipment that is provided. It goes along with it. Now, this is an important aspect because as professionals, these systems can be difficult. How do you configure them? What equipment is necessary? What can and cannot be used with other equipment? By defining these things ahead of time and limiting the selections and enforcing selections for the end user, you can communicate a lot of the or get a lot of the tech right up front. Okay, so and this has a just user help, right? So specify battery and quantity, a maximum of 3. So for this particular kind of system, the maximum number of batteries that it can have is 3, right? So I'm already helping the user right there. They aren't going to go, oh, look, I sold this, 10 batteries to this customer. And then they're like, well, we can't do that with this particular kind of system, right? Then you can delete the backup loads panel if you're going to do a whole home system, right? So that's one of the items here. You can select which is the appropriate backup gateway. And I was trying to put this together right before the meeting, so I didn't actually know how to input which is the right gateway to pick for which scenario. So I need to get back to that, but that would be something that I would input. Now, down below the description and the equipment, we have all of the modeling tools for the energy storage system. So I'll click on the sizing estimator here just to give you an idea. So this one, because we have a certain PV system, we have a customer with a certain energy load. And this, by the way, is in San Diego. So peak time of use pricing is a big deal. So I have it set up to offset peak time of use rates. And this says you need about an 11 kilowatt hour battery in order to fully offset that customer's peak time of use on an annual basis. Okay. Now there's other tools here.
So Michael, I was just going to ask real quick. So I know you started with a predefined system or a system that already had PV on it. So it was either a sold system or whatever. So this is pulling data from that customer. So you loaded up that customer's data prior to all this. And so this is using their actual annual bills or information?
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Okay. Yeah. Just skip those steps. The project was already created. Essentially, I've already given them a proposal, but now they're looking at, they want a different proposal. So I'm just making them a second proposal. I can only sell one of my proposals, but I can make multiple.
Okay.
Yeah. And we can go in and look at more details on this, because we're actually doing an hour by hour analysis, energy analysis. So for example, on an annual basis, how much of the peak time of use kilowatt hours for this customer will be offset with the battery. And during the summertime, we've got some sun, so we're going to be offsetting much from directly from PV. Using the battery, we can offset another almost 63% of their peak time of use kilowatt hours using this existing battery. It's a 10 kilowatt hour, remember, and this is about 7.6% of those peak time of use kilowatt hours would still need to be purchased from the grid. And we can go in and we can look at, detailed hourly examples. This is what it would look like on a yearly basis. And here's an example of a typical winter day to show that we are looking at it in an hour-to-hour basis. And we will also show here, and of course, it's got to chunk up the numbers here. We'll show the peak time of use period here is in gray. So you can see here's where we're charging during the day, here's the customer's load, and here's how we're satisfying it. And the winter time with the least amount of sun is where we're going to come up short here for those kilowatt hours. Okay.
So Michael, you mentioned the Sandia aspect. So are you able to pull in like green button data or anything like that, or
Yes.
how does that data get pulled in?
Yeah, good question. So if you look here under the energy use, this is where we've defined the customer's current utility rate schedule. We can take in green button data. We can also put in a single month's bill and model the rest of the year. That's all based on a zip code and type of customer basis. We use the modeling from the Department of Energy for that.
Okay, sorry, keep jumping backwards, but
that was part of my question too, around the list of utilities. I mean, there's so many different rates in the country. So are you limited at all to ones that you work with, or can you input anything, or how does that work?
Well, we, like much of the industry, are dependent on a company called Genability. They do a fantastic job. Most of the industry is using their database for the utility rates. They've got a full team that just works on just that. They do thousands of rate updates a month. It's not something that we could take on ourselves. So we use their data, and we use their API to the greatest extent possible. We actually show all the way down to the different bill components breakdown. So we try to be very transparent about how we're doing the before and after bill calculations. So you can see here's the overall story of the PV and energy storage system. Now it's easy to continue to build out this scope of work. I could add a general service. General service would be anything that is not going to be saving, producing, or storing energy. So like maybe an electric vehicle charging station would be a good example here. And when we add that, this again gives you the same kinds of features for inputting a custom description, inputting and making selections as far as products and or service efforts. So like, for example, here, this is we've got hardwired is the assumed installation, but maybe they want a plug because they're thinking that maybe they'll get a different charger soon. And so we can say, okay, we'll input an outlet instead. That all feeds directly into of course, your pricing and everything to do with your fulfillment, right? So now we could look up here, grid type PV, energy storage, and electric vehicle supply equipment all within this. I can propose it. I can close the sale on this. This goes into our full management system from there to make sure that it gets fulfilled properly based on the scope of work.
So this is all interesting. So I was going to ask you a question, kind of goes all the way back to the beginning when you were adding the storage system. So when you added that, it pulled up a list of, and so I think I heard you right, basically predefine what I as a contractor sell or install. So I'm presuming there's a big back end there that on the setup side, you have a whole list of possibilities. So I guess one of the questions, given how quickly things are changing, how is it? Yeah, how do you guys address? I got this email from somebody yesterday, and now all of a sudden I can get all these batteries because they're producing them, right? And they tell me they can ship them. How can I get those or different components into this proposal or into this system?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we would go and start talking about the management side. So this is, of course, the end user who's generally a salesperson in this role, what we're looking at now. Let me hang on to that for a second. I almost forgot to point out the description here. So the description has kind of tags in it here so that the user can fill in specific attributes about the installation. And these would appear directly in your proposals and contracts. Let me just show an example of that here. So here's that description. And so that text that you can edit directly here can come out. This is a page from a contract, right? And here's the PV system, all of the equipment listed out, quantities, details, etc. So trying to be very transparent, clear to everybody. Let me go back here and address some of those management aspects. So as someone with resource management or administrator permissions, I can access the resources menu here, and I can go to our service offerings. Service offerings is where we build these items that you saw me selecting from in those menus, right? So that's each one of these. Let me filter by type here. So I got my energy storage service offerings here. Now, one of the things that you can do very quickly, let's say you a service offering, I like to pick on Tesla a little bit. So, okay, here's the Tesla Powerwall energy storage system. They've told me that, I'm sorry, we can't ship any of those to you in the foreseeable future. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to inactivate it. That takes it out of the menu. Doesn't delete it, right? Because they can call me back and go, oh, we found a bunch more. I can turn it back on, and my sales team can immediately, access it and start including it in proposals again. But this gives a very quick way to control that aspect of it. If you want to get a new product into the mix, you would simply go here, add offering, add a storage system. And when we go through this process, there's a type, a name, a description, that user help, right? All those kinds of things. And then we can go and we can start actually building out what our major equipment is and define pricing rules around that as well. Is that helpful?
That was exact. I was figuring there was something in there, but I just had to ask the question.
This is a really powerful aspect because going back to that idea of where just a battery check mark. What we hear and we see from so many of our clients is, wow, this communication aspect is massive. Where is this information? Who has it? Who do I need to talk to? The more different sources of information that you need to go to, you're multiplying time and cost every single time. You're also increasing the possibility of errors. Again, that costs time and money. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a system that gets everything in one place. We're able to apply our technical knowledge in a way that it is useful and limit and provide the right options for the users to get it right up front, or as good as we can. And that's also going to help us going forward with our customer base, because they're going to go, wow, these guys, they know what they're doing, right? And they knocked that. I mean, they were on top of it. Anybody I called, they knew exactly what was going on. That's the huge benefit of the SolarNexus project management system. you always know exactly what's going on, and anybody can access it. It's very transparent.
And speaking to that, Michael, and you haven't touched on the project management side of things as much as the sales process, but all of this information then transfers directly over to the project, right? And so there's that direct.
Exactly.
You're not missing that communication.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the thing is, it's not really. I mean, there's so if we look here in the operations, we do break it up into the sales and install sides. But there's no formal like, oh, now we have to, you know, formally, we got to create a folder and get all these documents together and do all these, you know, gymnastics in order to get something into the sales or into the installs process. It happens because you completed the sold milestone. That's it. All of the data, all of the history of everything that's going on, everything's in one place, and the system knows what is the next steps to take based on the scope of work and any other business rules that you have. What everybody on the team benefits from is going to something like their task list here. And so I'll look at my task list, and I'm going to actually sort it by due date. So everybody has a task list, and this is just the things that I need to do, I'm responsible for, and it's across all the different jobs that I have, right? And I can see what those to-dos are, what is the job that it's for, what is its current status, and you can see there's color coding over here as well. So certain status is a problem, right? So this one is a blocker. This job is blocked right now because we need additional site information. Right? If it's yellow, that is a warning. So, you know, there's an issue, but it doesn't prevent other work on the project from proceeding. If there's a blocker, it stops all the work on the project from proceeding until it's cleared, right? And the cool thing is, if I did get the information, I can just click here and easily update the status, and the status is contextual. That's also really important. You don't want to have to be typing things in. This knows exactly what's going on. This is where we are in the job. So I'm going to say, oh, okay. Let's see, what do I want to create? Permit package. I got the extra information. So, you know, information gathered, and so now I can go ahead and work on creating the permit package. In that case right there, you can also switch ownership of the task. So if the status is flagged as something else, you can assign somebody else who can take care of fixing it, changing the status back, and assigning it back to you to complete that task.
Awesome. I saw you have orders as another feature.
We do. So that allows you, I mean, again, if you're building out a good scope of work with solid set of equipment, you can tie those to your suppliers and generate orders using that and then tracking them as well. The other cool thing about the tasks is that you can view it either in a list or you can view it on your calendar. We really are sticklers, or we really think it's important to have prioritization. The prioritization allows you to know what I should be working on next, doing things in an appropriate order in order to get consistent customer experience, right? One person's not having to wait too long because you know their task was waited to happen. So the software itself is dynamically generating the tasks. So I'm not manually saying, oh, what do I need to do next on this job, and creating a task. All of that happens dynamically and automatically. All I ever need to do for any of these cases is say, oh, okay, well, let's see, the permit package is done. So I can just click here. I can add some notes if I need to. And now that for that job, the next step in the process, the next people are informed, the to-dos are on their list. So you've constantly got things that are, your task list is dynamic. And you don't have to look at it from just the tasks way. You can go to like your install screen. And on your install screen, this is just going to show jobs that you have tasks to do. You're associated with them in some way. And in this case, everything is organized by a specific job. And you can see that there are multiple milestones or tasks that are associated and currently, happening concurrently for this job. And at a glance, I can see, oh, okay, this is a residential job. How big is it? It's grid type PV. This is PV, but it's got a main panel upgrade. Here's an example. This one has schedule main panel shut off and upgrade. Well, you're not going to see that task for this job with just grid type PV. Doesn't have a main panel upgrade. So the scope of work really is very important for determining the steps to fulfill it properly and efficiently.
Sure. Is that pretty customizable, or are those
Completely
that task list specified based on what the system is?
It's completely customizable. We do a lot of consultancy work with all of our customers. There's a broad variety of ways in order to operate your business, who's responsible for certain tasks, whether you work in multiple markets. So we work very closely with our clients to set them up to have a process definition that meets their needs. And they can be quite complicated. It's definitely one of the harder things to do in this kind of a business.
Yeah, it's very dynamic. And while there's a lot of similarities across solar contracting, there's definitely specific differences between them all. So
yeah, we usually start out with sort of plain vanilla process and go from there. But plain vanilla rarely suits everybody's needs.
We had a question come in around the equipment specs as well. Does each user or team have to create from scratch that list of equipment, or is there a long list to pull from?
That's a great question. If you go to our resources here, you will see that there is a public catalog. So that is what SolarNexus maintains. And you create your company catalog by picking equipment from our public catalog. Your company catalog also allows you to build custom products that we may not have. We are in charge of taking care of batteries, AC and DC batteries, AC PV modules, inverters. So we take care of all of that stuff. So if you went to AC batteries here, for example, there's a bunch of different batteries that we have in our database. And for each of these, you can go in and actually see a lot of the details for them as well. So this Encharge battery, these are specifications. And so you can go in and view the different specifications. This is not something you would like to do, especially for batteries. Just an FYI, we have built in the NREL algorithms for modeling battery cycling, charge-discharge cycles. They make that available through their SAM application. And so we have an API directly into there, and we use their algorithms to model the battery cycling and battery lifetime.
So does that get integrated into the modeling, the lifetime modeling prospect of what you were showing us earlier then?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It does.
Interesting.
Oh, here's another little tidbit that's kind of nice when you do have changes as far as managing it with your team. You can go to the home screen and you can update your announcements. So, I've removed, a product. I want to add this to my announcements. Anybody who just logs in, they can see any new announcements, so they'll be made aware of it. It's just another way to help with the communications, which ends up being really important. So I went back here to the John Bradley project, and we were looking at solution B. And then I want to make this the primary now, so I can go directly back to it. So we have, coupling, whether it's AC or DC coupled. This one, because, well, obviously this is a DC coupled one, but it knows which inverter to use because we input inverters, whether they're hybrid inverters, so there's different types. And so this is using the shared energy hub inverter that was included with the PV system. And this is where we can define how we're going to do storage modeling. And so we can choose different algorithms, maximize self-consumption. That's going to be the Hawaii case. Also, actually, we're seeing a lot more people in places like Florida and other places that are just saying, it's not even worth being on. I just want to use my battery. So they're using that to maximize self-consumption because net energy metering, if it disappears, maximizing self-consumption is what then we do. And if the rates are high enough, this is one way that you can still make it work. Right now, you'd need rates that are a little bit higher, though, more like Hawaii.
Sure.
And this is where you can define what your minimum state and maximum state of charge that you want for your battery in the modeling. So if I want to say, I want this, I want to keep reserve 50% of my capacity for backup, right? I can do that here. And then I can review battery performance details while I made a change. So this case, this is the one thing I will say this is a little bit concerning, right? You see the retained capacity is dropping fairly quick with this. The NREL algorithms are overly conservative on this aspect, on the lifetime of batteries. And I see that last week they released a new update which supposedly addresses this. So I take this one with a grain of salt, but you can still see, really, is this battery going to last 20 years? No, definitely not. They're going to have to replace it at some point. I would add, 2 or 3 years is what I'm seeing with the NREL's calculations. They're a little off. So you would say, oh yeah, this will probably last the 10 years that it's guaranteed for.
Gotcha.
But that's about it.
Right. This is all, yeah, lots of questions I have in my mind. But one of the things, so Jordan from up here in the Northwest asked a question. I think it might be go beyond what SolarNexus does, but I think it's a worthwhile question asking you, Michael, just because it seems like the SolarNexus platform is, speaking to a lot of people within the company. So Jordan was asking about if there's any statistics, or if anybody knows of any statistics on how efficient your solar company is. And he gave the aspects or the examples of ratio of office staff to field staff, employees versus revenue. So I guess I would add on to that question, or, have you seen people using this kind of data to then do, kind of more business level evaluations?
Yes. So admittedly, we've always been a small company. I mean, when I started this, I'm a solar geek, right? So I wasn't out there going like, oh, we're going to make millions and millions of dollars, and we're going to have every company. I'm a solar geek. I love just doing this kind of stuff, right? So we're a fairly small company. We do serve clients across the country, and we have grown sort of organically over the last 11 years. And we now have actually a very solid database of kind of company performance. It's a little bit tricky to evaluate because everybody's processes, they can be a little bit different, right? So they're not all standardized the same way, and so you have to be careful about what your what kind of takeaways you get from the results. But I will say that we do see a bunch of customers who come to us and they've been doing management, let's say with a spreadsheet, and they have some basic data on how long, when did they add the job, when was it sold, and maybe when was it completed. So, fairly rough timeline kind of data. After some time using SolarNexus, we pretty consistently see those average project timeframes really shrink. And we hear from some of our customers, oh my gosh, we're doing 25% more business and we have fewer head staff. You know, so those are the kinds of stories that we hear. You know, it's really about minimizing all of the extra communications and having actionable information so that you can get your job done without going out and, well, I had to ask so-and-so, I sent them an email and I'm waiting. And the product is really about removing latency, process latency. You know, I'm done with this. I click the check mark here, right? And it moves on. And I don't worry about creating things. It also, it removes a lot of stress. That's the other thing that we hear from our customers. It's just, I'm not so stressed all the time because I know what's going on and I'm not worried that we forgot to do something.
Yeah, related to that, you're actually jumping into the next question here, which is, you know, you've been in business for a number of years. What is the biggest impact that you hear from your clients who are using this product?
Well, I think that, like we've seen from a number of them where their sales go, you know, up and to the right fairly sharply, and average project cycle time actually goes down during that same period of time. So we've done way more jobs and the time that it's taken to do each of those jobs has shrunk. So the profitability and the just people being less stressed and more happy with what they're doing. I mean, like I said, I'm a solar contractor. You know, you're my tribe. I love these people.
Yeah,
because that's who I am.
I can imagine just having all of the teams and doing all of their different pieces of the puzzle, having it all on one tool in one space with the visibility and the communication alone is just going to help everyone do their jobs better.
I think so. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There's it requires buy-in. That's the hardest thing, you know, to get. You know, everybody's got their own little, oh, I really like to do this and I really like to do this. And you know, that's fine. It's just less efficient and it's not scalable.
Yeah.
And it introduces opportunities for failure.
Yeah, and that's really what we're talking about here. I don't know if there's a company out there that isn't scaling in some way, shape, or form, whether they want to or not, just because, you know, either they're saying no actively to new projects or they're scaling. Those are the two options.
Yeah.
One other follow-up question about, so you've got, I imagine your teams are in the office, but they're also out in the field, and having a mobile application would be helpful. Is that something that SolarNexus works well with?
Yes, we do have a mobile app. And let's see, well, I don't have that set up to demo on this screen, but yes, we do have a mobile app. The mobile app does not include all of the same set of functionality as the web application. It is really geared toward doing all of the tasks that you need to do in the field, like you know, seeing your tasks and your schedule, completing them, changing status, uploading photos. So we didn't talk about that at all, but we have the whole, you know, site awesome. Definition and, you know, like taking photos from the field, you know, completing your site survey completed milestone, right? And getting the design team immediately notified and having access to the photos directly. And that's all can be done from the mobile application.
That's huge. So then all of that data is affiliated with the project in the tool.
Yeah, exactly. It just connects directly
getting
with
all
the
the
same
pictures
data.
from your field crew who are taking it on their cell phones back to the office, uploaded to the drive or wherever, can be a barrier.
It is. It's again really just trying to get that latency out, right? Okay, they've taken photos and now there's a big block of time before any action can be done because they can't be acted on. And we try to avoid that. Provide tools to speed up that process. You know, before you leave the site, you know, the designer can be pinged and have the, start on the design before you even leave.
This is
So
awesome.
That's
I
helpful.
wish I had this when I was doing operations.
Me too.
Well, thank you for the demo. This is really helpful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah. So, so with that, I think we actually, this kind of ties into pretty well as well, kind of what you were talking about there, Michael, in terms of speeding up the process and things. And, with the system design, I think kind of what you were speaking to there at the end really speaks well to, us and what we're doing, and being able to get all that data and integrating that into a high quality system design is an important aspect that we see. We're dealing with that on a daily basis as well. So it's can speak a lot to that, and actually gave me some ideas to talk to you about offline here. So yeah, so the just with what we're doing on our system design side, the tools and the things that SolarNexus is building is a good way of collecting that data and turning it into high quality system designs. So yeah.
Thanks. So on top of that, Mayfield Renewables, what we're trying to do is help throughout the life cycle of a solar project as well. And we're doing that with high quality designs that you don't have to go back and forth on, that you're not going to have issues with your HJ or inspector with. So that's going to save time and money in that regard. And then we're also doing a couple of services that we've developed recently around technical consulting and education. And those are pieces that we believe are just, we're trying to transfer the knowledge on the Mayfield team, which we have an incredible team of experts that have been in the industry many decades, doing design, doing education and other things, largely on codes and standards and different products and services. So we're trying to transfer that knowledge to the world of contracting. And one of the ways that we're doing that is through technical consulting. And it's just a really simple service. It's a retainer service where we can be kind of your phone a friend. So throughout the cycle, whether it's at the early stages or when you've got your inspector on site, you can reach out to our team and we can take those questions and get them answered in the clearest way possible with all of our background. We have a really lovely quote here from Katie Martin of Elemental Energy. They've been using the service for, I think, maybe about 6 months now, and have come in with questions about code interpretation, questions about specific installation, points of interconnection, et cetera, where they're just not quite sure, and it would take them a bunch of time to try to research it and figure it out. And so just having us as kind of a backstop to help answer those questions quickly is, we're trying to help through that process to help you scale, help you move quickly and react to changes in the industry.
For us, it's been really enjoy helping solve those problems, and it's been great. And thinking of a lot of the questions we get, grounding and bonding seem to be high on that list. So as always. Well, great. And so I think, we had a couple other questions here that I want to get to. And I think one is Tom was asking about SolarNexus being available in South Africa specifically. So I guess the question is, internationally in general, and it's country specific. Michael, are you doing any work internationally?
A little bit.
Okay.
So we have a handful of countries that we are enabled for, and I believe we did add South Africa, but I don't think that we have any clients there right now. The biggest limitation is that we have no utility data there. So the if we're doing economic analysis, you would have to input your own simplistic rate information. We can do it, but that's the requirement.
So if Tom from South Africa wants to do it, he could reach out and get it set up. Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
And then Mike's asking how does Mayfield handle change orders? I'm happy to talk with you on that one, Mike. Typically we're like everybody else, just looking at what that change is and defining what that scope is. Kind of this goes all the way back to what Michael was talking about, scope work, defining the scope of work, and just these changes always come up, not always, often come up in our projects, and so it's not an unheard of thing to do. I guess, for all of us, probably.
Yeah, in our solution, we've actually spent a lot of time on the change order issue. So we have a formalized create a revision of a solution, do the changes, price, and then generate change orders and get signatures. We have a well-defined, that's part of the process. That's
Gotcha.
definitely part
Nice.
of the process. So.
Great. And so then I think there was one other question, maybe touch on this just a little bit, but so earlier you showed the platform incorporating a lot of data from bills and products and product matching for LCOE and ROI. And can the platform help make the case for energy storage as when a trickier financial value proposition is there to sell? So, I mean, you touched on the Hawaii example. Are there ways of kind of going outside the normal box easily to help make that sell?
So the things that we evaluate most frequently are either peak time of use offsets or maximizing self-consumption. So using up as much battery as possible. So those are cases where you are allocating some part of your battery. The other, honestly, what we see is the biggest economic driver is resiliency. People want to have some backup, right? We have the ability in our app to attribute annual value of backup. This is we encourage our clients to have a conversation with the end customer about, well, you're essentially buying an insurance policy, right? And this is what the policy would provide, right, as far as backup. And what would that? How much is that? How valuable is that for you? And you can incorporate that into your economics calculations. And honestly, it ends up being way more valuable than pretty much any of the utility offsets that you could have.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And yeah, putting a value on that and being able to look at that. That's, yeah, because the resiliency side is obviously a big driver for a lot of people.
It really is. It really is. But the key is then having that. I mean, like I encourage people to have maybe like a one sheet with a very, very simple formula that you can walk through your customer in order to come up with what this number is, because it's going to vary quite a bit from customer to customer, but and market, honestly. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, that hit us right at time. So I really appreciate everybody's participation today. Thanks for the questions. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Laurel, for joining. So here's all of our contact info. If you want to reach out, talk to us, have any questions, comments. And as always, we'll be sending out links to this recorded and the information that we had here. So we really appreciate everybody participating, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.